Okay, Nicole, thank you very much. Thanks for including the front of the poster too. Hey, wait, that's not yours. Let's get that. Let's get that. There we go. Oh yeah, yeah. You got it. You got it. Yep, 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 yep. Definitely. Looks great, doesn't it? Good job. I'll tell you what might be really interesting. Take the color, that kind of yellow cream color, and set your tagline in that color. Also, you're using two serif typefaces. I would recommend introducing a sans serif here. Also, I think the tagline is a little bit large for the headline. So I would reduce the size of that a little bit, set it in a sans serif, and make sure you're right aligned down here. Don't write a line to the serif, write a line right about where the serif curves. That'll adjust for any optical illusions created by aligning to the serif itself. So you always want to align to where where the serif meets the main vertical stem. Okay, that covers the front. Let's jump to the back. Okay, I got to tell you something. I think it's a little too much. It's too busy. It is. Let me just reduce the size of this a little bit. Yeah, I think the timeline itself it obstructs. Oh, there we go. Okay, the timeline itself, I think, obstructs it creates it just kind of slices it right down the middle, and it's diminishing the page harmony because right now it's creating two areas instead of one harmonious area. Okay, so I mean, it's an okay idea to use the timeline, the pills for the timeline, but I would definitely set the timeline. I don't see any advantage of setting the timeline on a diagonal. I think it's going to cause some problems. I really do. I think there's too much type here and too much going on. My recommendation is to reassemble the timeline. So set your type up somehow. Just really work on your layout here and work around that. I think that's a mistake. I really do. Also, we can see that blue background is different from the front cover. You definitely want to use that same color um, for consistency. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at your type. And to do so, increase the size a little bit. Okay, this is a quote, but it kind of sits up here in no man's land. So it's almost like it wants to be a caption, but it's too long for a caption. So we can clearly see that it's a quote, but I think it might, boy, I rework that. Think about a better location for that because really when we take a look at the composition, we have a lot of saccadic movements, okay? So we go from here, here, and we don't know whether this is a continuation of this. So, boy, I think the problem all lies with this diagonal separation of the page. I really do. So I think once you get that timeline assembled more towards the bottom in a horizontal orientation, I think the rest of your design choices will fall in line. Okay, let's take a look at your typography. Good, kerning's looking good here. Okay, type here. Don't forget now, I'm going to be looking for use of old style numerals or reduced size numerals. Those are both covered in the course announcements. If you don't have open type capabilities and you can't set to old style numerals, it's perfectly acceptable to take your numbers and just reduce the size by 20% or so. Do it by eye. That's a 20%. Don't hold me to that. It depends on the typeface and the X side of the typeface. But what you want to do is you want to reduce the size of the numbers so they're more harmonious with the type and they don't stand out so much. Numbers are always designed too large for type, and that's done on purpose. But as designers, we always accommodate by adjusting the size or the style of the numbers. Um, no need to indent these paragraphs because they're not a continued paragraphs. So the indent is a demarcation of a new paragraph. So since there's no paragraph preceding or following either of these two, there's no reason to indent. I think it would be a really neat idea to add a drop cap in your type here. Okay, let's go ahead and take a close look at your typography. I already talked about old style. Got to adjust your rags. Right now, your type is almost off the page. You haven't really set up any margins all the way around. I mean, you've got your top margin, that 45 is encroaching on the top margin. That's a decent margin there, and that's all okay, but I would increase your margins. Give us some nice padding, especially right here, your body copy. The rags need to be adjusted. Make sure you use old style or reduce the size of your numbers. Um, it almost looks like you have reduced the numbers here, so I'm not sure if you have. It's really difficult to tell with this rendering here. Plus, I got these controls here, which means I have to kind of move them. There we go. Oh, wait a second. I see. You know what? I had this set up incorrectly. Your margins are fine. Top margin can be increased. You're a little too close right there, and a little too close right there. But yeah, bottom margin can be increased as well. But I was wrong there. I was looking at a condensed version with the rags. Yeah, the rags need to be adjusted. Um, Okay, so other than that, I think you're looking pretty good here. It's a pretty long paragraph. I'm wondering if you can maybe split that into two paragraphs. It's pretty daunting to take a look at that. The type is very small, so chances are a viewer could look at the small type, the amount of type, not see any resting place demarcated by a new paragraph and say, hey, that's a lot of type. I'm going to pass. See what I'm saying? Okay, technically, these are widows. You don't ever want to have a word on a line alone. All right, superscript right there for the TH for 11. All right, so basically what I'm going to be looking for is small caps as opposed to all caps where applicable, old style numerals or reduce the size of your numbers, um, proper use of M dash, N dash, and or dash, and then adjusting your rags, among other things. But those are kind of the main things that I'm going to be looking for. So, okay, all right. So that said, I'd say it's a great start. We've got a few areas that are of concern. So let's go ahead and address those. But at this point, I think the most important thing is to let me know if you have any questions. All right, great start. Thank you very much for sharing.